You are a tool. You have been badly used, Endrid. This I admit. You're a tool without equal. A living weapon, akin to those that came later. Yet subtly different. A necessary evil.
I am, as I was made.
The Legiones Astartes of the Primus founding would forge the legacies for every Astartes to follow in their wake. Every legion of Space Marines would revere the first to bear their standards and spill the blood of the Imperium's enemies. For today, we shall elucidate an Astartes of pure vengeance, instilled with the warrior creed of his legion, the last warhound of the 12th Legion, Endrid Har. The warhounds of the Legiones Astartes would act as the brutal enforcers of the Emperor's will. Bereft of poise or grace, these warriors would more than any prize ferocity and unremitting savagery in battle. Yet before the Legion had been named its first ill-fated title, the 12th Legion would consist of a few companies, one of which only 4 initiates remained. Within the Imperial gene works of Holy Terror, these already battle-tested and scarred warriors would further undergo the gene seed transplantation and training of a Space Marine. Yet of these 4 initiates, only one would survive. A living weapon, the last remaining Astartes of his doomed company would bear over his already enhanced brethren. Massive in scale, this so-called mongrel Space Marine was the culmination of as of yet untested processes of gene implantation that further generations would be streamlined. A truly singular Astartes, Har would serve his burgeoning legion with distinction. Tasked to hunt down a band of renegade Thunder warriors during the Cerberus insurrection, Har would assault the so-called Daitar compound within the asteroid prison colony. So large would be Har's size, and so overwhelming would be his strength, Endrid would face the Thunder warriors in single combat. Breaking a warrior's back across his knee in one engagement and snapping the neck of another with his bare hands. Fighting alongside the Emperor, Har's lineage would be rumored to be of the Thunder warriors' own ranks, though such speculation would neither be refuted nor acknowledged by Har. Though if this were to be proven true, it would explain his massive size in comparison to his Astartes brothers. Already a legend among his peers within the newly monarched Warhounds, the so-called Riven Hound would remain a ruthless example for all to follow as he ascended to the rank of Praetor, or Captain, within the Legion. Yet with the Legion's introduction of their Primarch, the fortunes of the Warhounds would begin to darken. Of all the Legions, historians and remembrancers concur that it is likely the Primarch of the 12th Legion, Angron, would have the most violent and pernicious relationship with his sons. Embittered from the start of his induction into the Emperor's Imperium, the merciless slave of Nuceria would hate his gene sons' attempts to gain his favor. In a drastic move to bring themselves further to the plight of their Primarch, the now World Eaters would adopt the heritage of Nuceria as their own and implant themselves with the cortical implant, the Butcher's Nails. Enhancing their levels of aggression into boundless feral rage, the Eaters of Worlds would further exacerbate their reputation as butchers of the Legiones Astartes. Yet among the few Astartes that would refuse such a heretical implant, Har would draw on his savagery by his own terms. Waging war in the name of his Primarch, though accruing scars aplenty, Endrid would return from each war zone time and again. Recruited by Malcador the Sigillite to conduct specialized tasks in the name of the Emperor, Endrid would be removed from his legion to apply his skills to distant battles. Yet despite his deeds made in the name of the Emperor, Har would be imprisoned with the World Eater's betrayal of the Imperium. As the embers of Istvan III still burned, Har's loyalty would be brought into question. Imprisoned within Kambamawu, within the Himalaya Mountains, alongside the Crusader host and outcast dead, the Riven Hound would languish for a time before deciding to break free from his bonds. Slaying many loyalists during his escape from the Vault, Endrid would remain loyal to the Emperor, yet never be contained like a feral dog. Learning of the War Master's betrayal and that of his legion, Endred would resolve to kill Horus Lupercal. Removing all traces of his former legion from his armor, the Riven Hound would swear a death oath to atone for his legion's crimes. Assembling a Black Shield unit of former Death Guard, Iron Warriors, and Raven Guard to fight by his side, Har would command his band, known as the Fangs of the Emperor, in their quest to avenge their legion's former glories. Capturing the Sons of Horus vessel, Cicatrix Tyrannus, the Fangs of the Emperor would rename the vessel Ruination as a symbol of their intent against the traitors. Assuming the identity of the ship's commander, Raxor Karadan, and his men, the Black Shields under the command of Har would infiltrate the secret facility of Zana Tisiphone. Seizing the Ordinatus machine weapons during the Zana incursion from traitor hands, Endred and his second-in-command, the Death Guard Forge Tyrant, Erud Varn, would strike a devastating blow against the traitor war effort. Yet such skirmishes would not be without cost. Commanding his men with sheer intimidation and violent reprisal, mutinies would be rife within the Fangs of the Emperor. With the Death Guard accompanying Har and Varn during their infiltration of Zana, refusing to follow his orders. For their lapse in loyalty, Har would kill the Death Guard, yet spare Erud Varn. Refusing to compromise on an opportunity to hurt the traitor war effort at any cost, Varn would be persuaded begrudgingly to remain at the Riven Hound's side. Endred's obsession to kill the War Master would not be reasoned against by any under his command, no matter how self-destructive or suicidal his orders would be deemed by his men. Succeeding in securing the Ordinatus Mithrax and Ashurax, the Fangs of the Emperor would also deny the Ordinatus Ulator Neperfax from remaining in the hands of the traitors. Despite their small band being hopelessly outnumbered, they would prove an effective and deadly thorn in the side of the War Master. Reuniting with a member of his former legion, the World Eater's apothecary, Calibos, Har would come to understand the depths of depravity to which his own legion had sunk. Observing the experiments made to Astartes neophytes of the 12th in the name of progress, Endred would look in horror at the creatures his once friend had created. Despite Calibos being estranged from his legion, he had nonetheless been driven mad in his pursuit of crafting a warrior to end the war. Dueling within the Laboratory of Horrors, a creature would escape its confinement and mortally wound Calibos. Endred would kill the abomination, and with a heavy heart end the life of his once close brother. Despite his best efforts to become more than a weapon of war, Endred's interaction with his former legion and wavering battle brothers would break his resolve. He had accepted any mission given by the Sigillite, or chance should it allow for the spilling of traitor blood. And his hands had been bathed in the blood of many. Traitors, loyalists, brothers, subordinates, innocents. Yet Har's bloodlust would not be sated until the War Master's own blood soaked his hands. Aiding the call of the Imperial Fist Primarch, Rogel Dawn, to stem the tide of the War Master's forces during the Battle of Beta Garmon. Relenting in his acceptance that he was a weapon of war and nothing more, the Riven Hound and his men would make their final stand during the Siege of Terra. Joining the loyalist defense of the Saturnine Gate, Har's men would aid the Knights Errant commanded by Garviel Loken and Nathaniel Garrow. Facing the Sons of Horus, Har's ultimate objective to face the War Master would seem to be close at hand. Yet as the battle waged, the champion of the 16th Legion would stand against the Riven Hound, First Captain Ezekiel Abaddon. Alongside Nathaniel Garrow, Endred Har would battle the Inheritor to his War Master's ruin. Despite his fierce fury in battle, Har would be slain by Abaddon. Yet due to his massive size, as he fell from the killing blow, he would crush Abaddon as they crashed to the ground. Allowing a brief moment for Nathaniel Garrow to slay the First Captain, Abaddon would narrowly escape the embrace of death due to his Terminator armor's teleportation beacon. Har's journey to slay the arch-traitor while not achieved, would nonetheless be a valiant stand in the eyes of his Imperium. So few of your kind truly understand. Warriors make for adequate butchers, but poor killers. But you are a killer, Endred-Ha. A killer among killers.
I am as I was made, and I make no excuses.
This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. The Riven Hound would never achieve his goal to avenge the corruption and betrayal of his legion. Yet his deeds, whilst incurring many deaths on both sides of the civil war for humanity's soul, would be undeniable in its brutality and efficiency. Do not forgive Endred-Ha's deeds, but acknowledge his intent. Not all of his Imperium's warriors can be heroes of honor and glory, for war at times requires savagery and butchery, but never compromise.